Well, hello. Ah, the this is my favorite one. I gotta pick which one's my favorite one. What do I want to start with first? And today was close to a tie, but the USAID former employees, all the swamp that we fired, all these leftists, and all this tremendous waste of money, are being featured in two major leftist publications. One, NBC News, but the best one is the New York Times. The New York Times featuring them, and it is astounding to read what the quotes are, who these folks are, and where they're at now after they've been laid off, fired by Trump and the Trump administration. James Talarico needs to find black voters. He needs to recruit black people to vote for him. Can he do it? That's going to be fun. Oh, this is absolutely crazy. I have tons of friends in Lake Highlands in Dallas. You know, like half of my church, First Baptist Dallas Goes, which is one of my sponsors, by the way. You'll be hearing from them soon on the program a little later this year. Very proud of that. But half of my church is in Lake Highlands. And it's remarkable, Lake Highlands, because you've got these gorgeous neighborhoods that many of my friends live in. But then, down the street is the hood. And so seeing what they're talking about in the Dallas Morning News today, that the city of Dallas was contemplating taking low-income housing and putting it in wealthy neighborhoods of Dallas. You have to hear that story. It's so wild. Oh, my gosh. Just when you think it can't get worse. I would like to spend a freaking day without talking about the Islamization of Wylie ISD. But there is a new story in Wylie ISD about Qurans in the public schools, but no Bibles. And how your students can get a hold of those if you're in Wylie ISD. Aren't you excited about that? And then also, I got so much more good stuff in here for you. Oh, the Texas Tribune, insanely leftist Texas Tribune, is bemoaning how many DACA recipients are being cuffed and stuffed, arrested and deported by Trump. You have to hear about this, particularly when you see the crime statistics among these DACA recipients that Texas Tribune is, prints. They always print books. They don't print a story that's 2-3 pages. It's a novella. 6-page screed or swan song about these DACA people. But wait till you hear the statistics on how many of them have been cuffed and stuffed and for what for, and what cities in Texas and other major cities in the country they are being arrested at. All that coming up. But first, this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSprob.com, helping good people with IRS problems. Specialize in IRS controversy, IRS audits, tax planning strategies. Randy Martin's my CPA. He's been that and my tax planner for over 9 years. He's incredible. And if you have IRS problems, use him. Okay, here we go. This is what grabbed me. The New York Times did a story, and here's a kind of a headline they put up on a tweet. Cheryl Cowan, 57, was making $272,000 a year as a senior vice president at USAID, funded nonprofit, when she was let go at the end of March 2025. Last month, she had an online interview for a $19 an hour job managing a Penzeys Spices stores in Falls Church, Virginia. To which I retweeted and put on my headline, looks like she was grossly overpaid. Can we get our money back? Can you imagine? A $272,000 a year employee is now applying, and I'm not knocking her. Humility is important. And we all go through unemployment issues and things like that. But can we get our money back? If she was making $272,000 a year, now all she can get is $19 an hour. Doesn't that tell you how much we were being ripped off? And aren't you glad we fired her? If she can't get a freaking job at anywhere else but $19 an hour? That tells you about these people. Aren't you glad we fired them? Well, let's see. Here's more stories from the New York Times. A year after USAID's death, fired workers find few jobs and much loss. I love how they whine and they moan because they've never had to go through what you and I have had to go through over the years, losing jobs and figuring out what to do next. They don't know how to do it because they've never had to do it, because they've been not born, but they've had a silver spoon in their mouth with these massive fat woke leftist jobs poisoning other countries in our name. The USAID, this lady worked for more than 2 decades. She made $175,000 a year, some other lady. And she and her husband, he also lost his job at USAID. And by the way, they're going to complain here in a minute in this article about like how we've applied everywhere, and it's expensive to live in Washington D.C. I have an idea for you. Move. What did I do over my career to continue to go up the ladder to where I've been at for almost 2 decades in Dallas-Fort Worth? Where did I go? I started out in Austin, Texas as my first full-time job, and you know what? They never looked at me as an on-air talent. So did I stay at the same job and not move from Austin? No, I moved. Where was my next full-time job? Eau Claire, Wisconsin. No thank you. Colder than crap, middle of the North Woods. I was fired within 4 months because they didn't want to do a real show. They wanted some guy that cracked a book and read trivia. It was an FM, Z100 morning show. I didn't want, all I wanted to do was talk radio. My next job was talk radio. I was in Jefferson City, Missouri. Did I want to stay there? No. Where did I go? I got another job, bigger. I went to Madison, Wisconsin. Where did I go next? I went to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Then I went to Atlanta, Georgia. Then I came to DFW. What does that mean? And by the way, in between Atlanta and DFW, I had a year and a half in Middle Georgia, took a 1/3 pay cut, but I worked and I went to where the jobs were. These people expect to sit there. And so they will sit there on their butts and they will suffer because they don't know what it's like to be a normal person in this country, which is exactly why they were useless. I'm glad we fired them. So both the woman and her husband are, this is, I mean, I don't wish any harm on anybody. This is hysterical though. We were both on USAID making like $500,000 a year, roughly is my guess. And now we're on food stamps. Does that tell you the kind of people that we had working, paying them obscene amounts of money for no reason? They're on food stamps, Medicaid, and food stamp and SNAP, which is for women and children. That's WIC probably for their 19-month-old daughter. Gee, where did all your money go? Oh, here we go, too. The mortgage on their home in Washington until recently is in forbearance, meaning they negotiated to pay less than they owed each month, but the bank has now cut them off and says they need to apply for a low-income mortgage program. We don't know what qualify. How much you want to bet they live in a 5,000-square-foot house in that part of the country worth $700,000 to $1 million to $1.2 million? I have no sympathy. Sell your freaking house and move somewhere else. And get a job, go where the jobs are. This is wild. This is a trip, man. This shows you. And by the way, this tells you why D.C. is the wealthiest metropolitan area in America. It is the wealthiest metropolitan area in America for a reason. And this is why. One of the reasons why. I can't sleep, says one person, because of my situation. You mean you're unemployed like we've all been? She said over coffee, I can't sleep because of what I know is happening around the world. We need you. We need you to make transgender acting classes in Guatemala. We need you. You're crying over the transgender children, the children. She says, I know it, and she can't sleep because I know what's happening around the world. I can't sleep because my former colleagues and friends also are suffering. They're suffering. They're going through what you and I have gone through time and time again over our lives, losing jobs. And they don't know how to deal with it. And these people were being paid $150,000, $250,000 or more grand a year. Here's a 36-year-old woman as a contract-year-old woman making $127,000 grand a year as a contractor. She now volunteers as a manager for OneAid, which helps former USAID workers. She's working to help the unemployed workers 9 hours a week as a companion to 2 elderly women. Okay. This is my favorite. Here we go. Watch this. This is somebody else. I'm a queer brown immigrant. I'm a queer brown immigrant, said Adrian Mathura, 55, a Navy veteran, a former senior USAID advisor in global health. I'm a queer, brown immigrant. Oh, my gosh. I make stupid jokes around the house. You know, like my son's, he got just stupid jokes, random out of nowhere, like that have nothing to do with what's going on in my house at the time. Like my son's coming out last night. We're watching something on TV, my wife and I. My son's coming out of his room, and he's got his his friend loaned him his keyboard, and it's big. And my wife's like, "You don't have enough room for that in your room. Put it in the other room we have on the other side of the house, on the other side of this wall." I said, "Oh, are you making music for the queer community?" And he said, "Yes." You know, just stupid crap. And this guy, what I make as a joke, this guy says, "Seriously, I'm a queer brown immigrant." Ho, 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 ho. Holy crap. Don't hire that guy. I can't stop. Oh my gosh. I'm a queer brown. I don't know why I'm laughing so hard, dude. Oh my gosh. I'm a queer brown immigrant. Help me. Help me. I'm a Navy veteran, but I need help. It's like the person expects to have a job because they're queer and brown. Okay. I'm a queer. I'm a queer brown immigrant, said Adrian Mathura, 55, a Navy veteran. Can you imagine this guy fighting right now in Iran? I'm a queer brown immigrant. You know, taking things. I'm brown and queer, throwing it at the Iranians. Get out of here. I'm queer and brown. Okay. I'm a queer brown immigrant, said Adrian Mathura, 55, a Navy veteran, former, I'm going to try not to laugh, senior USAID advisor in global health. I'm here to help you with your health. I'm queer and brown. Oh, you're queer and brown? You can definitely help me with my health. He says, I got to do all this incredible stuff in my life and my career and spent all my adult life touting how great the city on the hill was. Yes, you were going on the milk of the fat of the land on a useless, stupid job, because you were queer and brown. Anyways, I got to tell my adult life touting how great the city on the hill was. I never once imagined I would be so betrayed by my government. Getting fired is betrayed by your government. In other words, you cannot lose a job, and if you do, because you're queer and brown, it is betrayal. Can you believe that guy was in a frickin' Navy? God help us. I never once imagined I would be so betrayed. Here's another person. This is so funny. Here is a 57-year-old woman who's making $272,000 a year at USAID, senior vice president, when she was let go at the end of March. Thank you, God. She's making almost $300,000 a year. Last month, she had an online interview for the $19 an hour job. She was the one featured at the headline. Managing a Pensy spice store. Her take-home pay would not cover her mortgage. I wonder why. How much you want to bet she's like at a $1.5 million house? She's not going to move. She needs help. All those people, all those leftists that were donating. Remember how they were having protests out there? They were crying and holding their signs. Do people like us, when we lose our jobs, do we cry and hold signs? And does the news come and cover us? No, because we're not leftist swamp members. Her take-home pay wouldn't cover the mortgage, but she was eager to do something. Maybe you can go do protesting with the queer brown man. Here's a 47-year-old. I'm living with family all over again like I'm 22 and just out of college. Welcome to the real world, ma'am. And by the way, when these people making 170, 150, 270 grand and they don't know how to make ends meet, they were living beyond their means. They were living up the fat of this country, living on a job that was woke and useless, and now they can't afford to make ends meet. That's a you problem, man. When I lost my job in Atlanta, we had been living beyond our means. And we had not a lot of debt. I've never had a lot of debt in my life, but we had some debt. And I did the whole Dave Ramsey program. And we sold an expensive car that we had, and because we had a car payment on it. And I took a $5,000 loss when I sold the car, but it was the best decision I made because I had no more massive fat payment. And that's the first time in my life when I turned everything around, and it took us a couple years not only to become debt-free, but to, really do well, which we've done over the past 16 plus years here. The 16th anniversary was on Easter, by the way. So I have little sympathy because these people, it's a you problem, is what it is, or a they problem. Had a job contractor at the agency's Office of HIV/AIDS. A year later, her $200,000 income as an agency contractor has been replaced by $9,000 for teaching 2 courses at public health. Again, these people were insanely overpaid. This tells you everything about how much of a disgrace this whole thing has been. Here we go. This is from NBC News. Theirs wasn't as great as the New York Times. I did not think I was going to be crying or laughing that loud about the queer brown man guy. Okay, I'm not trying to laugh just to laugh. I have the giggles. A lot of life. This is from the NBC News story. Also on this, a year after Doge. We're going back a year after the disaster, the horror. A year after Doge, former federal employees are still looking for work. I wonder why. Because they're trying to stay in D.C. and they're trying to get a job making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. And they're wondering why they're not getting hired. Because they had useless, made-up, bureaucrat, leftist jobs. And USAID, in most cases, was destroying other countries by turning them into queer programs and LGBT and all this leftist garbage. It was a disgrace and it was poisoning other communities, truthfully. Here we go. A lot of licensed contractors won't do work for less than $60 an hour. This guy's doing contract work now, like home improvement stuff instead. He says a lot of these people won't do work for less than $60 an hour because it doesn't fit the economy of scale. That's my bread and butter. Little old ladies, they need light bulbs changed. I do that stuff as well. Well, there you go. This one woman says, we aren't creating enough jobs as a nation. Former USAID person. We aren't creating enough jobs as a nation. Oh, yes, we are. Just not your jobs. And certainly in the larger D.C. metro region, to absorb that workforce into the private sector. So again, certainly not in the D.C. metro area. Get out. Your free ride is over. Another guy says, and depression is something that's a constant thing. Welcome to losing a job like most of us have gone through. It's en español, realidad. James Talarico needs to get black people to vote for him. That's a big problem. I'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSprob.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. Randy Martin's been my tax planner and my CPA for over 9 years. If you have any IRS problems or if you need a good tax planner, Randy Martin is your guy. Do what I do. Go there and use him. He's in Dallas-Fort Worth local. He's actually at Quorum Drive right off of Beltline and Dallas North Tollway. Okay? And I know everybody in his office, and they're amazing people. They are friends. I give hugs when I go there because we give mutual hugs when we go there because we're all friends. And Randy and I have been friends actually for like 11 years when we first met in Sunday school class at First Baptist Dallas. A couple years later, he called me and said, hey, I'd like to partner with you. I said, yes. And here we are. Call IRSprob.com at 214-214-3000. That's 214-214-3000 and tell them Chris Crock sent you. Now, today I'm wearing my Due West Foundation and Plumbing hat. Due West Foundation and Plumbing is owned by Jim Dutton, the host of Texas Home Improvement on radio in Dallas, Fort Worth, along with Houston and other stations across Texas. And Jim's a good friend. My wife worked at Due West for 3 years earlier on, and they've done everything. In fact, I did not use any company. I've never used any company but Due West for all my plumbing and foundation since I got this house well over a decade ago. And they did the static plumbing test on the house before I bought it and the foundation inspection. And then they've done every piece of work. They did root shields, cutting all the roots from underneath my, so they're not going under my house and sucking the moisture out and hurting my foundation. They do concrete leveling. They do retention walls. They've done grading in my yard, along with replacing a pipe under the house that went bad. And after you do that, you got to put piers in there. You don't ever want to have a different plumber from foundation. Use the same company and use who I use. du-west.com. If you want the best, call Due West. That's du-west.com or call 972-406-0912, 972-406-0912. And, of course, tell them Chris Crock sent you. James Talarico, according to the Dallas Morning News, this is great. James Talarico faces Senate test to win over black voters after defeating Jasmine Crockett. Now, remember, there's a black woman who is a Democrat operative, or I don't know if she's a Bernie guy that helped out with him or something like that, but she's a well-known Dallas-Fort Worth area Democrat operative, black lady. And she says that Talarico, remember that? She told several months ago, it came out, she's like, when Colin Allred was, I think he was in the race and at the time, and Talarico said something like, call him a mediocre black man or a mediocre black politician. That's what it was, mediocre black politician. She said that he said that to her. The Talarico said that to her. And then Talarico had to come, oh, no. And she's like, I'm a Democrat, but this I have to call it out. He said he's a mediocre black politician. And then, mediocre black man, I think it was. I don't remember anymore. I think it was mediocre black man. It doesn't matter. It was horrible. And so, what's his name? His name, I just said it. Colin Allred. He is totally to the left and acts like he's moderate. He is not. He voted to impeach Trump. He's rapidly pro-abortion, votes with Pelosi on almost everything. I know he's out right now, but he came out and he did a real post for once, and it was searing against Talarico, and it was spot on. And so Talarico cannot relate to a black person if it meant his life depended on it. Talarico is going to have, and they're like, well, he owns weaving faith into his political career. Yes, great things like God is non-binary. There are 6 genders. It goes on and on, and God supports abortion because Mary was given a choice, which she was not in the Immaculate Conception. All you have to do is read the scripture. There's no choice. You will bear a child. You'll call him Jesus. And James Talarico lies. Look, the black folks, the average black folks, many of them are church. And black folks many of them know church. They know scripture. And they aren't going to stand for this crap. And this guy couldn't relate to a black man again if it meant his, or a woman if it meant his life. There will be black people that will vote for him because they want a Democrat to win because they're the massive Democrat constituency. If you look at the numbers, sorry about that. I forgot to mute my phone. If you look at the numbers, and they're in here in this story, he has to exceed the average black vote by 10%. He couldn't do that at all. He can't do that at all. I love you, black people. Ha 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 ha. He'll play the game. He'll show up there, and some black churches will let him come in and act, but it ain't gonna work. Here's a woman named, and here's the headline from Dallas Morning News. Talarico faces Senate test to win over black voters after defeating Crockett. Let me tell you this. Mark my words. And they're saying, oh my gosh, Talarico got like 27 million or 28 million in the first quarter. Mark my words. Well, Beto Hussein O'Rourke got 38 million in the first quarter when he was running, I believe it was. Talarico's going to lose by a much bigger, wider margin than Beto Hussein O'Rourke, the cultural property, lost by. First of all, the reason why Beto almost won that one was so close was because Ted Cruz phoned it in until the last minute. I was on the air ripping to shreds the campaign and Cruz because it says this is our seat, this is not your seat, and if you're going to phone it in, then get out and let somebody else run. I'd support the guy, I vote him for every time, but if you're going to phone it in and not put the full effort in to run for election, then get out of the way and leave so that somebody else can take that seat that will hustle for it. I had listeners calling from all over the Metroplex saying they saw no signs, there were no Cruz signs when they show up to get signs or canvass neighborhoods. Barely anybody shows up, and they're like, "What's the problem?" Oh, they're like lackadaisical and everything. So, anyways, Talarico is going to get a worse percentage of voters spread in his loss than Beto Hussein O'Rourke will. So this woman named Shaniqua Jones is featured in the Dallas Morning News. Hoped that her March 3rd her March 3rd vote would help make history, sending Jasmine Crockett, Jazzy, to the Senate as the first black woman nominee from Texas. She actually was on social media the other day. I played it for you. She's asking for a job. Well, I'm working on my book, which nobody's going to read. I'm working on my book, but yeah, I would like to work at a law firm as long as I can still work on my book. So she's like angling. She's going to have to get a job at a race hustling firm because nobody's going to hire in a mainstream office. Well, unless it's like Clay J, some leftist office. When State Rep Talarico won instead of Jazzy, it left many of Crockett's black supporters wrestling with disappointment. No kidding. Oh, crap. We got this guy now. I love trans kids. There are 6 genders. As a black, don't eat meat. And now, let's eat meat. Which one is it? Don't worry about it. There's a 250,000 on any given day. There's a 250,000 head of cattle in West Texas, and this guy told his people he's going to have a no meat campaign, etc. This woman says, as a black woman, it feels like voters think we can't run the country. We're needed in today's world, and one day we'll win these races if we are allowed. If we are allowed. The right person, not cackling Kamala or Jazzy, the right person, like, I don't know, Condoleezza Rice. To win in November, Talarico must maximize Democrat turnout. The black vote. Starting with black voters, the most reliable base. Yeah, he's going to maximize black Democrats. I'm so excited to vote for this guy who's an abomination. Who supports bastardizing the Bible and what God says. Dallas County Democrat Party convention last month, Talarico struck a conciliatory tone. I like black people. You know, I don't know what he said, but... Oh, here we go. Freddie Haynes of a Friendship of West, a Baptist Church, yes, BLM. He worships BLM. Remember the BLM stuff? He had the BLM banners up on all sides of his church above the cross and stuff like that. It's all about BLM. That's what he worships, that and leftism. Freddie Haynes won Jazzy's old seat. I love that. And she goes to the church. By the way, remember this. The security guard that was killed, that lied and was wanted on federal crimes for impersonating federal officers and such, he went to a church, and they're like, well, how did Jazzy pick this guy who was a massive amount of felons? And remember when the news came out and he was shot and killed? She's like, well, I believe in redemption. And there were no violent offenses. He had like 7 or 8, including like car theft, check kiting, theft, felonies, all sorts of stuff. I believe in second chance. What she meant is I believe in 7 or 8 chances. She hired a career criminal and was shocked that he was shot and killed for what he did. Anyways, they never said what church he went to, but they said his church, da-da-da. How much you want to bet? I don't know this. I have no fact to base this on, but how much you want to bet he went to Friendship of West, Baptist Church, where Jazzy and Freddie Haynes go? I don't know. I'm just saying how much you want to bet, because that would be how you go, well, you know, hire this guy. Yeah, well, he's got like 8 felonies, but you know what? Hire him. How much you want to bet that's how it happened? I don't know. It's just pure speculation. Freddie Haynes says he spoke with Talarico last month about the skepticism among Jazzy's supporters. It's one thing, and this is where Freddie Haynes will sell out his folks, his congregation, and black people to try to say, vote for this abomination. By the way, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to tell you a little inside story. Personal story. When I, for years and years and years, was working at my former radio job in town here, there was a parking attendant, and we became very close. And he's black, and he went to Freddie Haynes' church. So I will say this. My friend was 110% doctrinally sound. We never talked politics because we were good friends, and it probably was obvious we probably disagreed on most things. I don't even know. He got cancer. I was struggling in this situation. I've told you publicly that it's been years now, but my wife and I had a rough patch that we had to go through. It was like 7 years. And I did everything I could, and she did too. We got help, and we healed our marriage, and it's better. It's been like 5-6 years now, or 8 years. I don't even know. It's been so long and so good, we've lost track. That's a good thing. But my friend was ministering to me when I was having difficulty, and he would always quote scripture. And he got cancer, and he was telling me stuff about how his friends were moving in on his wife. She's a beautiful lady. He showed me pictures. And he was crying about that. People were trying to move in on his wife while he was sick with cancer. He was in the hospital for another bout. What blew me away, and those of you who have dealt with this in your family, your lives, what blew me away was how normal he looked. I almost didn't believe that he had cancer because he looked so normal. But he was at a hospital, and he mentioned, you can come visit. And it was a day, and there was a time when I was super busy, but I made time for James. And I went to the hospital. It's the one, I don't know which one it is, but it's the one that's, if you hop on 30 from downtown, and you go to where there's an old hotel the Beatles stayed at one time way back when. I can't remember what it's called, that part of town. You get over on 30 and you go I don't know. It's just outside of downtown. Anyway, I went there and visited with him, and he was so happy, and he was moved to tears that I came and saw him. And then one day he died, and everybody was invited in the building that knew him because everybody loved him to go to his service. So I will say this: he learned, I believe, and he went to Friendship West. So I will say this: Freddie Haynes is a race hustler. Freddie Haynes is a grifter. Freddie Haynes worships BLM. But my friend learned doctrinal truth there, but with a racial tinge and BLM tinge, which is very, very wrong and anti-God. But that aside, if Freddie Haynes, and he will, and this is why Freddie Haynes is a bottom-dwelling race hustler and BLM worshiper, if Freddie Haynes embraces James Talarico, Freddie Haynes is knowingly and willingly embracing massive falsehoods and lies about God and God's Word. Because Freddie Haynes knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that God is not non-binary, that God is not a woman, that God is a man, and he is a he. Freddie Haynes knows unequivocally that there is only two genders, and that God made man and God made woman. Freddie Haynes, if he does support gay marriage, is selling out and is betraying his faith and his beliefs for power and money. And if Freddie Haynes supports James Talarico, Freddie Haynes has chose to go with a man who preaches abomination of God and his word. And I'm not mad about James Talarico. He's not threatening to me. He doesn't threaten me. But what he says is an anathema, and is the exact opposite of God. And anybody who moderately knows what God says and what the Bible says is literally fully aware that the man is a liar. He's either stupid, and I don't think he's stupid, he's a liar. So if Freddie Haynes embraces him like that, here's what he said. It's one thing, I didn't mean to get serious, I didn't even know I would. It's one thing for Republicans to say it, but when your own party is whispering that Jasmine Crockett is unelectable, that is a wound that the community feels, says Haynes, talking about, what's his name? James Talarico. You watch. I predict that Freddie Haynes will embrace Talarico, selling out his faith and betraying God and his word. And that's his problem. Gerald Britt, an urban engagement consultant. We need to find black voters. Oh, let's go talk to an urban engagement consultant. Hi, you are black. I am white. Hello. He needs to construct an argument, says this urban engagement consultant. How do I talk to black people? I love trans people. Shh, don't say that at a black church. He needs to, can you imagine how much, it's one thing where Hillary Clinton, I ain't always tired in no ways and all that kind of stuff. or Joe Biden, they're going to put you, or I think it was Biden, you're going to put you back in chains. All that kind of stuff. It's one thing to say stupid stuff like that at a black church, but it's another to have this guy who speaks the exact opposite, and they ain't stupid, and they know if they bring him into black churches and he gets applause, it'll be interesting. It'll be the complete and total sellout of a church that, while leftist and Marxist or BLM at least or social justice, it'll be quite remarkable to watch. Anyways, this urban engagement consultant says that Talarico needs to construct an argument as to why we need to vote for him. Good luck with that. You need to vote for me because God is non-binary. You need to vote for me because there are 6 genders. You need to vote for me because climate change, and we need to stop eating meat. Go tell a black person that they can't have Texas barbecue. Good luck with that. Talarico, anybody in Texas telling you can't have Texas barbecue. Talarico did not make himself available for an interview. I'm shocked. Hi, James Talarico. We'd like to talk to you about black voters. Click. Click. Let me call you back. Talarico did not make himself available for an interview. I'm so shocked. Instead, providing a statement, a paper statement. What should I say? I only talk to black people on paper. Enter. Talarico did not make himself available for an interview, but instead providing a statement. I'm ready to engage on the issues and fight for them in the halls of power. I just can't talk to black people. Okay, I added that part. I don't know how to talk to black people. P.S. I don't know how to talk to black people. Can you help me? I need an urban engagement consultant. The former rivals, Crockett and Talarico, have yet to campaign together. That'll be funny. It'll happen, but that'll be very funny. People talked about how that's going to go. That's going to be very interesting. But they'll do what they need to do. People talked about how Talarico needs to stop signaling to MAGA-adjacent folks and speak directly to black folks. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Not nibble around the edges about his agenda and how it speaks to black people. Democrats need to put aside their differences and snap out of it and snap into the race. Yes, vote for this abomination. Matt Engel, director of Democrat Research Group and Lone Star Project, said turnout in a large... This is where I'm so right. This is where James Talarico is so screwed. Mark Engel, director of Democrat Research Group, the Lone Star Project, said turnout in the largest 5 counties in Texas must reach 41%, with Democrats carrying 64% there in the 5 counties, largest counties. He needs 64%. That means a lot of black folks who don't give a frog's fat about that guy, you know what about that guy, and in fact, if don't are disgusted with the guy and that he beat Jazzy and that he's a abomination. Black voters would need to listen to this. This is why it's such a joke. Why he's going to lose so badly. Black voters would need to exceed 12% of turnout, with about 90% support. 90% support of the black vote. If you know what, James Talarico, if he gets 90% of the black vote, it'll be like he walks on water like Jesus himself. He needs 90% of support of black people plus gains in nearby suburbs. A Democrat can't win statewide without that. He is screwed. He is so screwed. Way worse than Beto Hussein O'Rourke, the cultural appropriator. Beto Hussein O'Rourke was saying horrible leftist things about taking away guns and this, but Beto Hussein O'Rourke, the cultural appropriator, fake Mexican, never said things that were an abomination of what God says, or about God. Dallas County Party Chairman Cardinal Coleman said Talarico must deliver clear, direct messaging. Yeah, good luck with that. Other than God is non-binary and there are 6 genders. Earlier this month, Talarico joined Dallas County Clerk candidate DeMarcus Oford in a block walk. Oh, he's walking with a black man on a block walk. Oh, he's walking with a black man. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to vote for you. And now analysts say that he's studying to be a minister, weaving faith into his campaign. A Crockett pollster told fake news CNN that Talarico has mastered putting religion in a political context. Yes, when it comes to an abomination. Anyways, there we go. That was that was fun too, and some serious stuff. But there it was. Oh, this is something else. I have a friend. Well, I have a lot of friends that live in Lake Highlands, a lot, and I'm there a lot. And it's probably my most visited neighborhood in Dallas. And I got a friend who's in a very nice house in a very nice neighborhood, and I didn't know this. I see some of those apartments, and he's like, "It's the hood. It's absolutely the hood." And it's like, he the way he describes it's like 3 blocks from his house, but I think it's like 5 to 8 blocks from his house. But context. But he said, for example, he says there's tons of violence in the area because of the, low income housing, if you will, probably Section 8. I'm sure it is, right by his house, even though he's in a very nice neighborhood. He said that he's seen like thugs walking down the street in front of his house. He also, this is really insane. I could not believe this. Listen to this. He on his backyard camera. He didn't see it in real time. He saw it later on. A thug with a shiny silver gun opened his back door gate and walked into his backyard and went up to the house and looked in there. I have other folks, again, the right, that's how Lake Highlands is. There's beautiful homes, beautiful neighborhoods, and then, 5 blocks away is low-income housing and a lot of problems. Under that, guys, and we know that's the case in most urban areas and stuff like that, but look at this. This is pure insanity. Look at this from the Dallas Morning News. Advocates for equity, in southern Dallas see the policy as a missed opportunity. They literally, Dallas City Council on Wednesday approved a proposal that will allow low-income housing to continue to be built in low-income areas, but the new policy reversed. They literally had an earlier policy. Like, I'm talking the other day, as of like 3 days ago. Dallas had a new policy the other day that proposed by city staff that sought to encourage putting low-income housing in Dallas in higher-income neighborhoods with more opportunities. They were going to put low-income housing in high-end, wealthier areas of Dallas. It's wild. Civil rights attorneys say there was a missed opportunity to address the city's problems, longstanding problems. They say this has helped concentrate poverty there, disproportionately affecting residents of color. That's a BS answer for a BS problem, because there are people. I'm watching, I love war stuff. I just love war stuff. My wife could care less unless the mainstream movie that just came out or something. I'm watching a 9-series movie on HBO that I just found. All I do is Google war. I stay up about an hour or so later than my wife, so I watch all sorts of cool stuff on my own that she doesn't want to watch. So I'm watching a 9 chapter series or whatever, 9 series of 9 movies or whatever, of the Pacific in World War II, the Battle of the Pacific, in Guadalcanal right now and such. But I'm reminded of completely separate war in Vietnam. I thought about that, but I thought about, Asian folks in general, but you can have people like from Vietnam or many Asian countries that come here dirt poor, first generation, and wildly succeed. And now I want to turn to Vietnam. Of course, Vietnam War is totally separate, but my optometrist, who I just saw and will be seeing on my follow-up to my first pair of contacts I've ever gotten, her parents covered her up overnight in a warehouse before they were flown out of Saigon as we were evacuating. And they laid on top of her, and they told her it was to keep her warm, but it was because they were terrified bombs would come through at night and kill her. The next morning, they had some luggage or whatever, and there was a huge pile of stuff in front of the chopper. And when they got up there, they said, "Throw everything into that pile except what you have on your back, because the chopper won't take off if they have too many things and too many people or too little people." So They did, and she came over here with nothing, and she's getting closer to retirement. Her daughter's taking over the business, and she is wildly successful, a strong Christian woman, and a massive Trump supporter. There is no excuse for anybody not to succeed in this country. And the number one reason for any of this is fatherlessness homes. That is the absolute reason. And so putting people that are in lower income into wealthy neighborhoods doesn't do jack squat. Telling the truth about the problem, fatherlessness. You are like 10 times more likely, and don't believe me, it's so true. People go nuts over this when I tell this, but it's so true. You're 10 times more likely to go to jail, incredibly more likely to be on drugs, incredibly more likely to not go to college, to get pregnant out of wedlock, to be on welfare, and be in jail if you have no dad in the home. There are people that are in one-parent homes that do well. They are not the statistical norm. Let's go back to this, though. They didn't want to scare off developers when the city is short more than 45,000 new units for affordable housing. So they were going to literally, and the city had already voted to do this until it just got overturned yesterday. They were literally going to put massive amounts of low-income housing in wealthier neighborhoods. It's wild. The Dallas Housing Finance Corporation backs housing affordable households. The city's housing department staff also was involved. They were the ones that pushed this. The Dallas Housing Finance Corporation and Dallas City Housing Department staff, who don't live in these neighborhoods where this would have happened, they wanted this. Staff wanted us to use the Dallas Housing Finance Corporation to give lower-income families more options in wealthier neighborhoods. Wow. And this is it right here. We're almost at the very end. This tells you everything. This one couple of sentences right here tells you everything about this article that I want to talk about. A woman, the president of the Singing Hills Neighborhood Association in South Dallas, when hearing that low-income housing would be continuing to stay in South Dallas, wouldn't be shoved out into wealthier neighborhoods, does she say, oh, this is great because these people are a blessing like they would be at the wealthier neighborhoods? What does she say? Sandra Aldridge, president of Singing Hills Neighborhood Association, says, I don't have anything good to say about this. A longtime resident of the southern Dallas neighborhood, the Dallas Morning News says, like this other person, she also lobbies council members to stop putting low-income housing near where she lives. Why? I thought it would be a blessing. The Dallas Housing Authority and Dallas Housing Finance Corporation and the city's housing department staff, they thought it would be a blessing to put them in wealthier neighborhoods. Why wouldn't you want more of them by you? I thought this was a blessing. Quote, I don't have anything good to say. A longtime resident of the southern Dallas neighborhood, Singing Hills neighborhood, she also lobbies council members to stop putting low income near where she lives. Why? Why would you do that? Why would that be bad? We're choking on it, she said. We know that it harms us. Why would it harm you? They were going to put it in wealthier areas. You mean you wanted to put housing that hurts people by others who, I mean, it tells us, the story tells itself. It's ridiculous. We're choking on it. We know that it harms us. She says she believes the amount of low-income housing has made her home's property values suffer and is the reason there's no major grocery store nearby. So then who would want this? Who would want this situation by their houses? Well, they were going to force it. No, thank you. Hard pass. Can I please have a day where I'm not talking about the Islamization of Wylie ISD? Because now comes another story, a news story, about how Wylie ISD has pushed more Islam and taken out Christianity. Behold, I'll show you this is from Dr. Mary Bone, who's a candidate for State Board of Education. I will read you the post, and then I'll show it to you. Oh, I'll put it up right now. Here you go. Quote, Dr. Mary Bone, Wylie ISD's McMillan Junior High has the Quran in their library, but 0 copies of the Bible. Look at this. The Quran's there, but no Holy Bible. I wonder why. I'm shocked. Are you? I am not shocked. Of course I'm not shocked. Let's see here, okay? Let's see. Parents, please check your school library, she says. Christianity is being erased in Texas public schools. This is not education. It's selective religious promotion. Wylie, fix this now. So there you go. You can get a Quran at McMillan Junior Middle High, but you sure as heck can't get a Bible. There you go. I just got some breaking news on Dallas police. Let's go to this. This is just coming in from the Dallas Morning News moments ago. All right, Dallas police change immigration enforcement rules after Abbott threat. Yes. I want to remind you that Dallas Police Association's president, Officer Peace, I think he might be Sergeant Peace, was saying, we don't need to, we're busy enough. We can't be helping enforce immigration. He's a leftist. The group's a leftist. And if he told the truth and wasn't co-opted by the left, he would say that helping get illegals off our streets that they're encountering would make less crime because they wouldn't keep getting arrested and offending people, doing offenses against people. Here we go. Dallas police change immigration enforcement rules after Abbott threat. From the Dallas Morning News like a moment ago. Dallas police revised their immigration enforcement rules after Governor Abbott threatened to withhold $32 million in public safety funding. Officials said there's a yes. The updated rules allow but don't require officers. I don't know if that's going to be enough. I hope it's not enough. The rules allow but don't require officers to ask people who are lawfully detained or arrested about their immigration status. Work with federal immigration authorities and share status information, immigration status information with them. The change also removes a ban on officers prolonging detention. In other words, they can hold them until ICE shows up. They can notify ICE. The change also removes a ban on officers prolonging detention to further investigate someone's immigration status or to hold them for federal officers. Good. I wonder what the Dallas Police Association is going to do now. Are they going to say this is bad, or are they going to shut up? I would not support them. I wouldn't give them a dime. Fort Worth Police Officers Association is great, not DPA. The revisions come after Abbott said last week that Dallas police had adopted rules allowing officers to refuse to cooperate with ICE, violating agreements tied to the state funding. In a letter to Abbott's office, city manager Miss Wokila, a.k.a. Kimberly Bizer Tolbert, said the governor's warning did not specify which parts of the policy his office considered non-compliant. She said the department reviewed rules and revised some provisions to further clarify its compliance. I'm going to bet this is not going to be enough. Tolbert said that it makes clear officers aren't barred from asking. They're going to get in trouble. They're going to get in trouble for doing it unofficially. You watch. It's not barring officers that ask the status of somebody who's been lawfully detained or arrested. She said it clarifies officers may cooperate or assist with federal enforcement officers, immigration enforcement officers, when reasonable or necessary. Chief Daniel Como says our officers will follow the law. Our updated policy will affirm that we will cooperate with federal authorities when required or where required. I don't know, man. An Abbott spokesperson said the governor's office had received the changes. It had extended its compliance deadline while a review was underway. So my hope is that Abbott says this is not good enough. It should be that they must report and must cooperate. It can't be an option. Because now, and by the way, here's why it can't be an option. It has to be mandatory. Because if it's an option, people that are more like us on the right, more conservative, are going to be afraid to do it. Because there will be unofficial repercussions, I believe. Seriously. They can mess with you. They can give you crappy assignments, put you on a crappy shift. They can say no to certain extra jobs for you. It can't be that way. After Abbott's letter last week was addressed to Mayor Eric Johnson, who's a fake Republican, a Johnson spokesperson didn't respond to calls or text messages requesting a comment from the Dallas Morning News. Of course they won't. He won't, because he's a fake Republican. Anyways, we'll see how this goes. But In a statement to the Texas Tribune, Mayor Johnson said he agreed with Abbott that immigration enforcement plays a role in keeping our city safe, and that he was appreciative of Cuomo for adjusting the rules. We'll see. I don't think this is going to appease Abbott enough, and I don't think it should. So that just came out tonight, okay? Speaking of illegals, this is perfect because we're going to get into illegals. Bill Malugin. He's responding to an article that came out today from the Texas Tribune, which is obviously leftist and super woke. Always are, always have been. And one of the ways you can tell it's a leftist publication is because, look, one story, which I'm about to share with you, is 1, 2, 3. I think I threw away 2 more pages, like 5 or 6 pages long. Just like the New York Times. We're so important, we write forever. Do this story in 2 or 3 pages, unless it's some lengthy investigation. Anyways, the Texas Tribune wrote an article bemoaning all these DACA recipients getting arrested and deported, which I'm so happy about. Bill Malugin, and I'll get into the story, some of the highlights. Bill Malugin says these DACA recipients that are getting arrested and deported, they're talking about 200, and this is from Bill Malugin, this picture from Homeland Security, a letter, 250 of 270 of the DACA recipients that have been arrested and deported are being deported had criminal convictions or pending criminal charges. Texas Tribune barely even mentioned that. They bury it in the middle of the story or less. But if you look at these statistics, these are the arrests of DACA recipients. And look at this. It's going to be hard for me to read this. Dallas has 23. It's so tiny. El Paso has 9 DACA recipients arrested in the middle of deportation. Harlingen has, I think that says Harlingen has 16. Houston has 20. Dallas, I mentioned, is 23. I have more than Houston. San Antonio has, I think it says 31. And that's kind of the extent of the Texas cities that I can see. I know it's so tiny. But that's the letter from DHS that goes over those numbers. Okay? Those are DACA recipients arrested and deported or in the process of arrest and deportation. And so now comes the leftist Texas Tribune. And here's a guy from Colombia who had DACA. He told agents he had DACA when he was pulled over. He's like, you must be mistaken. Oh, no. They said that doesn't matter. Good. It's part of Trump's mass deportation efforts, says the Texas Tribune. From January to November of last year, at least 261 DACA recipients arrested, 75 of them in Texas. Good. Let's triple that, please. Quadruple that. And between 86 and 174 DACA recipients have been deported. Good. Now, what I'm about to get into here, you can hear some Democrats bemoan this. Texas Democrats bemoan how bad this is. And the message is clear. Democrats want all the illegals to stay. Even when they are convicted of a crime or charged with a crime, they want all the illegals to stay, including the criminals. And you're a criminal coming here illegally. It's a crime, as we all know. Might be a misdemeanor, but it's a criminal. You are a criminal to start with, and you are a criminal now. And these ones who have convictions or are awaiting adjudication of a criminal charge, they want all of them to stay. That's their message. We want them all. We don't care about the crime. Federal courts have determined that DACA's protections are lawful and active DACA status should convey protections, says the president of and CEO of the Dream US, the Stolen Dream US. Yet that's not happening, he says. These unlawful arrests must stop immediately. They are lawful and they will continue. There are currently more than 505,000 DACA recipients in the country. 1/5 of them, almost 84,000, are in Texas. The DACA recipients say they, quote, trusted the federal government when they came forward under DACA, passed background checks, and followed every rule DHS asked of them, said Representative Sylvia Garcia from Houston. BS. They've been charged or convicted of crimes. They have not followed every rule. Now under Trump, says this Democrat, Sylvia Garcia from Houston, now under Trump, ICE is targeting the very young people who did everything right. That's appalling. What she's saying is, I love these criminals. These criminals are our neighbors. We want these criminals as our neighbors. Trump had campaigned on deporting the worst of the worst, but since taking office, they say the majority of illegal immigrants, they say immigrants, that's a lie, illegal immigrants, are being arrested for deportation have no criminal convictions. You see, it doesn't matter if they have no convictions. They've been charged with a crime. And let me tell you something else. I don't want the worst. I want every one of them gone. And you can blame Joe Biden because an unprecedented invasion of 10 to 20 million illegals in 4 years begets an unprecedented deportation. No country in the history of the world has ever been invaded by this many people. No country in the world, in the entire history of this planet, has ever been invaded by this many people. And that unprecedented invasion begets an unprecedented deportation. And we have not deported anywhere near the amount of people we need to deport. Period. But I love that. They have no criminal convictions. I don't care. And by the way, as I mentioned, 80-something% of them, I think it's 82% of them have been charged with a crime or convicted of a crime. Right here. I'm sorry. 92%. Bill Malugin says from Fox News. 92% of all DACA recipients that have been arrested had criminal convictions or pending criminal charges. 92%, and that's who the Democrats want to keep. There's been a lot of limitations living with DACA, says one of the recipients. Can't vote, can't travel outside of the country. Wah, you're legal. You can't vote. You're damn right you can't vote. Oh, I bet you want to vote. You can't travel outside of the country. Well, then leave. Leave. Go. Here's a guy who was let go from his most recent job after his work permit expired. Good. Get the message. Get out. As Eddie Murphy said in whichever episode that was of his comedy. You're in the haunted house, and you go towards the creaky board and the scary house. Get out. That's when you leave. ICE Houston says 277 arrests, criminal illegal aliens in 2 weeks. ICE announced Wednesday these criminal charges, 277 in 2 weeks. Those individuals carry a combined 751 criminal convictions and 654 documented illegal entries into the U.S. Wow. Among those arrested, 17 convicted sex offenders, child sex offenders, 6 convicted murderers, 16 drug traffickers, 15 gang members or associates, 67 with robbery-related convictions, 2 foreign fugitives wanted for murder, 11 convicted of hit-and-run offenses. They were made with assistance from federal, state, and local law enforcement. Acting Field Office Director Paul McBride, thanks to those relationships with local and state law enforcement, he said that this good stuff has been done. He also warned that many moves to limit the cooperation of local and state authorities would carry immediate consequences. Houston is being spanked hard, and they're still not, last time I checked, Governor Abbott says they're still not where they need to be to comply with state law, which I'm glad that we're riding them hard. He warned that any moves to limit that cooperation will carry immediate consequences for public safety and national security, and said the heaviest toll would fall on illegal immigrant communities. Oh, no. The heaviest toll will fall on immigrant communities, well, both illegal and whatever, where criminal illegal aliens commit the majority of the crimes, on illegals, that's right. But remember, the Democrats don't care because they're all their constituents. They bagged and tagged a 34-year-old MS-13 member. Biden released this female MS-13 member. He released her into the country in 2024 despite her conviction and foreign fugitive status. Convicted of 2 counts of aggravated homicide. Biden's like, oh, you're MS-13? Oh, you have 2 counts of aggravated murder, a count of aggravated extortion, and participation in a terrorist organization? Come on in. Yes. Here's a 54-year-old Vietnamese national who was convicted of murder in Houston in 1991 and had a final order of deportation removal for 25 years. They finally got him. This is absolutely heinous. Reprimanded Sherman ISD teacher resigns amid community concerns. My buddy Kyle Sims went up to Sherman to speak out on this, and now I know what he was speaking out about, and I'm glad he did. Sherman ISD hired a man named Bradley Strickland. Bradley Strickland worked at Sherman Middle School at the beginning of the year of this year, school year, despite knowing he resigned from Tioga ISD in 2023 over allegations of grooming a female student. They hired him despite knowing he resigned over allegations of grooming a female student in Sherman ISD. That's insane. Thank you for listening and taking action, says a woman named Mary Alexander, telling Sherman ISD trustees at Monday's meeting. However, and by the way, this is from Texas Scorecards reporting today. However, a personal follow-up would have been appreciated. She is the mother of the girl groomed by Strickland when she was a student at Tioga High School. She and other advocates previously aired their concerns about Strickland during Sherman ISD's February and March school board meetings, called for his removal. They also tried contacting school officials about his status after hearing had not been in class. They told trustees that Strickland's resignation does not diminish the need for more accountability in future hirings and more transparency about involving student safety. Because what they're saying is this. The families had removed their children from his class, by the way, after learning about his troubling past. But look at this. The woman whose daughter was groomed says, I am continuing my complaint with TEA. I'm working with legislators and other activist groups that no known groomer, including Brad Strickland, is ever allowed in another classroom. I'm committed personally to stop the trash from being passed. I'm also committed to outing corrupt ISD administrators and board members. Josh Ballinger, superintendent at Tioga, and longtime friend of Brad Strickland, take note. This is what's crazy right here. A request for information about Strickland's hiring submitted to Sherman ISD in January by education reform advocate Amy Glover revealed Superintendent Ballinger had provided a very favorable reference for his friend and former employee that included the comment, Brad is a great teacher. He is at no fault for his reprimand. The superintendent, Ballinger, told Glover in February that Sherman ISD had not requested a reference for Strickland from Tioga ISD. Tioga High School principal Keith Kirkland also provided Strickland with a highly favorable reference. This guy is accused of grooming a high school girl, and they're raving about him. So Tioga High School principal Keith Kirkland also provided him with a highly favorable reference. Sherman ISD provided the documents on April 10th after seeking permission from the state to withhold them. They tried to withhold this. The district has chosen silence, says Mom, so nobody really knows the answer. She added that ignoring Strickland's past misconduct could expose the district to liability for any grooming behavior he engaged in while at Sherman ISD. A state law removes immunity from cases of sexual abuse enabled by gross negligence, allowing students to sue school districts for up to $500,000. Go after him. Go after him. Go after him. Go after him. Oh, we're gonna end on a nice high note. That's what we're gonna do. I got some very touching video again, very sweet and awesome touching video. I'll play for you in just a minute. Let's see what I got here. The Democrat debate last night for California governor. Look at this. This is from Colin Rugg, journalist, replying to the headline from the New York Post. If you recall, Representative Katie Porter dumped scalding hot mashed potatoes on her ex-husband's scalp, burning him. Here we go. So here's what it says. The headline, Rep. Katie Porter scalded ex-husband's scalp with potatoes, says documents. And then above that, Colin Rugg today, Swalwell will rape you and Porter will burn your face off. That's a great... Hey, maybe it should be Swalwell for governor and Porter for lieutenant governor. What do you say? Oh, what else do I have here? We'll watch just a little bit of this. We have... we're going to pass on that one. Let me do this. No, I can do this. All right. Here is... What do I have for you? I'm going to play you... Tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to move that one. Would-be Palestinian suicide bomber is applauded as she appears before woke Berkeley students. This is real sick. From the Daily Mail, a would-be Palestinian suicide bomber was met with raucous applause as she appeared before UC Berkeley law students. Isra Jabez, who was released from an Israeli jail in 2023. This is a sick, sick terrorist woman. She was released as part of a prisoner exchange for 26 hostages on October 7th. After that happened, made a virtual appearance as part of a teach-in organized by the student-run UC Berkeley Students for Justice in Palestine, which is a terrorist-supported organization and a terrorist-funded organization. This chick was a suicide bomber yelling Allahu Akbar, but she survived and her face is all mangled. She also really hurt a Israeli police officer. So they had a terrorist who blew herself up but survived yelling Allahu Akbar, who was released as a prisoner swap, otherwise would be in jail, as a terrorist should be. They tried to kill people and maimed a police officer. The event came one day before Israeli Independence Day was described as a chance to hear experiences of a day before Israeli Independence Day, experiences to hear Palestinian torture survivors and prisoners of conscience, not a terrorist. Police officer said at the time he spotted her driving in a commuter lane with no passengers. When he spoke to her about the odd sight, she reportedly acted suspiciously, the Jerusalem Post says. The subsequent explosion left her face disfigured and the police officer burned. An ensuing investigation reveals she shouted, Allahu Akbar. I'm shocked. Before the explosion, and that she had handwritten notes showing support for people she described as Palestinian martyrs. The officer involved in the attack even went so far as to call the incident an act of terrorism. Of course it was. You always hear of terrorist attacks, yet suddenly I am in one. Boom, that's how it is. Don't worry, UC Berkeley is there to worship her. It's just disgusting. Franklin Graham. Reverend Franklin Graham, the son of the late Billy Graham, and I always love mentioning that I'm very good friends with Billy Graham's spokesperson for 35 years, my friend A. Larry Ross, and he's a publicist here in the Metroplex. Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son. And by the way, Billy Graham was a member of my church, First Baptist Dallas, for much of his life until he retired and moved to his home in, I think, North Carolina, was it? Or South Carolina? I think it was North Carolina. And then he switched membership to his local church there. But Franklin Graham said this today. The DOJ announced they're paying $1 million settlement to the Catholic pro-life activist Mark Houck. If you recall, he was raided by 20 armed federal agents because his son was being shoved around and threatened by a pro-abortion activist. And so they raided his house with rifles out in pre-dawn with semi-automatic rifles, AR-15 style rifles with FBI agents all masked up as if he's some kind of a terrorist. And he's homeschooling his children. He's got like 16 kids or something. Here we go. 4 years, Billy Graham, or Franklin Graham, put this out today. 4 years after pro-life supporter Mark Houck's home was raided by 20 armed federal agents under the Biden administration, he was arrested at gunpoint. He and his wife were awarded a settlement of over $1 million from the U.S. Department of Justice. All of this was because Mark had defended his 12-year-old son during an interaction with an aggressive Planned Parenthood volunteer while they were there to pray peacefully at the abortion facility. I'm thankful for this outcome and sorry for what this family had to go through. This is a win for all Americans who value free speech and life. Amen. And by the way, Biden got them on the FACE Act, which is exactly what we're getting Don Lemon and all of his sick, vile, anti-Christian, woke activist terrorists who terrorized that church in St. Paul Police City's church. In 2023, early morning raid on Houck's family in rural Pennsylvania home where 20 armed federal agents arrested Houck in front of his family and later interrogated him for several hours. It's just sick. He had agreed to surrender voluntarily prior to this, but no, they wanted the optics like they did at Mar-a-Lago. Sick bleeps. Here we go. This is going to shock you. The Pacific Palisades Reservoir in L.A. was empty during the fires of L.A. last year, is dry again. Residents aren't happy about it, says the L.A. Times. The Santa Ynez River, which holds drinking water for Pacific Palisades, was empty during the Palisades fire and now is dry again, concerning nearby residents. A $19.5 million project to replace the floating cover is needed to ensure the quality of drinking water, but will keep the reservoir out of service till fall. I said it about a year and a couple months ago, and I'll say it again now. 72 L.A. County, L.A., 72 genders, 0 working fire hydrants. There you go. Oh, this is great. You have to see this. I got to get this lady's picture up. I think I have her picture. Where is it? Yes, hold on. Where is she? I got this lady's picture somewhere. Let me get this picture for this lady because you have to see this. This is quite remarkable. I thought I pulled it up, but I guess I don't have it. Let me pull it up. Hold on. No. All right, I have to find it. Maybe I won't be able to find it. Although the story itself kind of writes itself. Hold on. Nope. Okay, that's another funny thing I'm going to play for you in a second. Okay, there is a woman who you and I have never heard of. She's a congresswoman. She's 79 years old. Her name is Alma Adams. 79 years of age. House Ethics Committee investigating Representative Alma Adams, 79-year-old woman, for alleged inappropriate relationship with a staffer, a 79-year-old woman. Having alleged inappropriate relationship with a staffer. God help that staffer. My gosh. He must have had a lot of drinks, man. Staff interviewed roughly over half a dozen former aides, some of whom were working for Adams at the time. About her relationship with her now deputy chief of staff and district director. So Sandra Brown. Oh, I guess it's a chick. Anyways, wow. A high-ranking staffer filed a complaint with the committee after the staffer was told by colleagues the congresswoman was in a relationship with an aide. Woo! Texas angler, you've seen this story, cited after catching, live streaming alligator at Lake Arlington. Fisherman says he thought he hooked a catfish before discovering an 8-foot alligator, says the Dallas Morning News. Here's the problem. Why is he being fined? Why is he in big trouble? Why did the DNR and all that stuff bust him? Well, here's why. Officials say the angler brought the alligator to shore after catching him. He removed it from the fishing line and later released it. But the agency issued citations for illegal possession, this is in DFW, for illegal possession of an alligator, intentional feeding of a free-ranging alligator, and not having a hunter education certificate, and gave a warning for hunting without a license. Texas Parks and Wildlife, not DNR, TPWD, game wardens said the angler also live streamed the encounter for almost 2 hours. He turned this into a freak show. He live streamed for almost 2 hours, during which he fed the alligator and encouraged people to come by and take photos with it. That's why he's in big trouble. I didn't know. No, dude, you turned it into a circus or a farm. He said he is now dealing with fines tied to the citations, was required by Texas Park and Wildlife officials to complete hunter education course. They said I had to take the safety course. I'm doing that instead of paying part of the fine. He said the course, which he took online, covered firearm safety, hunting regulations, topics he said he was not expecting after a fishing trip. I wasn't trying to hunt anything. According to Texas Parks and Wildlife officials, unintentionally catching an alligator while fishing is not a violation if he's immediately released. But intentionally feeding an alligator is illegal because it can cause the animal to lose its natural fear of humans and increase the risk of dangerous encounters. They advise people who come across an alligator, so take note of this, ready? If you come across an alligator, keep your distance and... Do you need to be told this? Keep your distance and back away slowly if they are close, noting the animals are typically wary of humans but can become aggressive if they associate people with food. That's not going to be a problem if I encounter an alligator. What else do I have for you here? Oh my gosh. Do you want to hear about John Cornyn and how he's rabidly pro-illegal? Well, let's see John Cornyn's commercial that just came out. I just retweeted this on my Twitter feed, X feed, at Chris Crock Show. That's at Chris Crock Show. Here's John Cornyn, a commercial that you may have forgotten about, where he's supporting illegals.
Cuidándonos. El senador John Cornyn. El senador Cornyn ha luchado para detener el tráfico sexual.
Oh, sí.
Especialmente a lo largo de la frontera. Él apoya la reforma policial.
La frontera is the border. Of course, la policía, you know what that means.
Y mientras el senador Cornyn está a favor de fronteras seguras, él apoya firmemente la legalización de los Dreamers.
Legalize the Dreamers, she says. There we go, John Cornyn.
I'm John Cornyn, and I approve this message.
I'm John Cornyn, and I love illegals. Thank you, John Cornyn. We appreciate that very much. Let's go to something that's very, 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 very touching and sweet. I'm going to see if I can get, I'm going to pull it up for you right now. This is a dad breaks down in tears as he watches his son pitch his first pitch in his first MLB game and throw his first career strikeout, his son's childhood dream coming true right in front of him. This is what every father lives for, seeing his children succeed. Powerful moment. This is from ESPN. Watch this, y'all.
I love the reaction from Dad, you know, because it's Little League, it's Babe Ruth, it's Legion, it's college ball.
5 levels.
It's just absolutely amazing.
He has not thrown a fastball.
And the pitch. Swing and a miss. First major league strikeout. It comes on a slide. Swing and a miss. He got him.
That's a great dad. That's a great dad. That is any dad who loves his boy, watching his boy wildly succeed. Any dad with a great heart. God bless that dad. And God bless you. This show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSPROB.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. Call 214-214-3000 and use my guy, Randy Martin, IRSPROB.com.